1, 2. Let's just check the volumes here before I go live. I think we're all right volume wise. I think you can hear this all right. James is going to give me the nod in the live chat, I reckon. Just let me know how I'm doing. All right, so the purpose of this live stream today, quickly, before England go on and win the Euros, is just to give you a quick overview of our software game patch creator. So if you're familiar with it, awesome. If you're not familiar with it, you're going to find out exactly how that works in here. Now, I'm using my development PC, but I don't actually have Game Patcher Creator installed right now because I have that on the laptop, and this was just a spur of the moment live stream that I wanted to do. I just wanted to fit 20 minutes or so in, just to give you an overview of what GPC can do, because I don't feel like a lot of people understand the power of GPC. We've been doing a lot of work with Game Launcher Creator V2 since we released GPC, because we released a Game Patch Creator back in December. But as you'll know, if you were a Game Launcher Creator user, that we do work on Game Launcher Creator quite a lot. Plus, there's not really many bugs or anything to squash with Game Patch Creator. It's quite a solid product, which is good. So I just wanted to just give you a quick overview today on exactly what it is that Game Patch Creator can do, and I can take any questions that you might have. So anyone that's joining us live now, if you want to write anything in to the live chat on YouTube, I can try and get your answers done. But yeah, so Game Patch Creator. So if you're a Game Launcher Creator user, you may be wondering how this has stemmed from AOPS, which is the Advanced Online Patching System built in to Game Launcher Creator. So when we first created Game Launcher Creator, in fact, if we go back a little bit to V1, so Game Launcher Creator V1, which was released in the beginning of 2018, we didn't have a patching system. We just had an update system. So basically, in your launchers, you could download an update, like an installation executable or a patcher, and get that to do the patching or the updates. However, when GLC V2 was born, we created AOPS, which is the built-in patching system for your launchers. Now, you got to remember that when GLC V2 was developed in late 2019, it was still, AOPS was still the first time we developed like a patching system, so it enables you to patch your games, your apps, and the launcher itself. So, we're learning all the time too. But GLC V2 has its constraints because of the framework that we've built it upon. It does have constraints. We did a lot of custom work last year for game development companies. There was a game called Aim Gods, which was released. That was a really good start. It was a massive game developed with the Unreal Engine 4. We developed a custom launcher for that, and that's where we sparked the idea from to build a completely standalone software Game Patch Creator, which is, I know I keep saying it, but it's AOPS on steroids. So it's the same concept used in AOPS. However, it's much more flexible. It has many, many more features to it, and there's potential for us to keep on adding features as we go along. Right, so we've got James here. How would the patch system work? Like, if I have my VPS, could I have the patch files there and it would grab it from said VPS? And would it need to be in an install executable file? No. All right, so if you had your own VPS, yes, it can work from a VPS. It can even work from multiple directories on that VPS. So if you look at how AOPS works, is you specify your patch URL, and the patcher will download the game files from that URL. Now, if you notice with AOPS, you can't really change that patch URL. It has to say, it has to say the same all the time. But with Game Patch Creator, you can change all that. You can either do it from the initial configuration, or you can send command lines to the patch executable to say, don't use this directory, use another directory. So basically, the way it runs is the patch executable itself is just a shell. That's all it is. And it reads the configuration file that you tell it to read. Now, if there is a local configuration file, so there's a configuration file in the same folder as the patch executable, then it will load that up. However, you can override any of these settings. So you can say, well, you know, I want you to launch the patcher, but I don't want you to read this configuration file. I want you to read this one that's on my web server. And you can have it on a web server anywhere. You just send the command line through. So basically, I think the command line looks something... Let's just get Notepad up. So if we was working with the command line, you would simply send patch.exe, and then I think it's d/d. So then you would say, no, load my site.com, this game, and then config file. So you could send that, and then if you had another button in your launcher that was, say for example, you wanted it to, you wanted users to be able to download the beta version of your game, then you would send a different command line. You would say, go to mysite.com / this beta version, like that, and then config file. So then straight away the patch is going to run. It's going to read that configuration file from your web server, and it's going to, you know, each configuration file can have a whole new set of different settings, different patch URLs, and all that kind of jazz. So I hope that answers that question anyway. Yeah, basically anything inside Game Patch Creator, or anything that the patcher can do, you can control outside of the Game Patch Creator editor. So for example, if you make a change to your patching setup in GLC v2 with AOPS, you have to rebuild your launcher for the new AOPS settings. However, with GPC you don't have to do that. You can change your settings on the fly and update them on your web server. So what if I never had my VPS and only had just my personal PC? Again, you could do it with that, because you could literally set up a little web server on your PC. So as long as you've got the IP and the port number that the patcher needs to connect to, you'll be fine. You know, or you could just plonk over a subdomain over that. Yeah, it'll work. So going forward from what we're doing right now is anything that you see me go over in this quick 15-20 minutes that we've got, it can all be customized outside of the Game Patch Creator editor. You can, so basically you can set the default settings, and then you can override all this with Game Patch Creator. So let's just take a look at the features. Let's get the ball rolling, and I'll just show you what it can do, because I don't feel like the website does it enough justice. But the problem is we can only fit so much information on the website. If we start going into massive detail about the intricacies of the features that are listed for GPC, the web pages would be too big, and people would just be like, oh, I'm not reading through all that. So this is why I wanted to do this video today, just to skim over what these are, but then also go a little bit more in depth as well. So with the patcher itself, with the patcher itself, you can create a custom design for it. So you can design the window, so you can design that in Photoshop, GIMP, Illustrator, whatever it is that you want to use, and export it out, import that image in and use it. Now, going off what I said at the top of this stream, again, you can change all of your patcher design and everything on the fly. You don't have to build local files out and ship them with your game or your launcher or the patcher. So you could have your patch design here. You could have the image for how your patcher looks on your web server. So if you ever wanted to update that, you just simply update the image on your web server, and it will reflect throughout all the patches. So everything is pretty much customizable just from your web server. You don't need to keep pushing out updates for the actual patcher itself, if that makes any sense. What questions have we got here? In the DLC, is all this integrated into GLC? No, this is not integrated into GLC v2. This is a completely separate product. This is Game Patch Creator. You know, maybe in the future, some point in the future, we might integrate some kind of light version of GPC into GLC v2. But for now, AOPS works. It does what it needs to do. We don't need to make any more changes or anything to AOPS. So yeah, who knows? Who knows what the future may hold? But yeah, one thing that is interesting to note is if you're not part of the DLC add-on development, what we're doing right now is inside the DLC. Last week, I've literally just finished off all the coding for a GPC integration. So if you own Game Launcher Creator V2 and you own Game Patch Creator, you can basically have a hidden patcher running in the background, and GLC V2 Launcher will pick up all the information from that patcher, so you can display it inside your launcher. So basically you can create your own patching screen inside your GLC V2 launchers. So yeah, they do work together. It's pretty neat. I'll probably do a video on that separate next week once we've finished off with the testing, but that's pretty much ready to go. So yeah, so you can customize the splash screen. You can customize how the patcher looks itself. You can also there's two progress bars at the minute that you can use. You've got an overall progress bar and a file by file download progress bar. You can move them about, and we also have a text string as well, which gives out the information for the current patch progress. Again, you can customize that, so you can change the font, the size, the color, and you can position it as well inside the patcher. What else have we got? So we've got patch servers as well. This is a new one. So we've got patch servers which you could use inside GPC. So you can have multiple different patch servers and let your user choose. A lot of game developers and some modders, they like to have different servers in different locations. Like you may have a server in the US, you may have a server in the UK, maybe one in Germany or something like that. Because you want to give your users the option to choose the closest server to them for the fastest downloads. And you can do that with GPC. You can literally specify multiple servers, and then your user can literally choose a server, and it'll all work flawlessly. It's all drag and drop editing. We've already covered all that. So what else have we got here? So you can have single server patching. So again, you can run it like AOPS. You don't have to have multiple servers. You can just have one single server on its own. Yeah, just run it from one server. That's fine. If you wanted to, you can have multiple servers for the patching. Another thing that I wanted to touch upon was unlimited versioning as well. So this is another thing that AOPS doesn't have. So AOPS, the patching system in GLC V2, everything has to be incremental patching. So if it's version 2 that's out at the minute, then you put 2 on your remote version server, and then everybody has to keep upgrading to the latest version. There's no such thing as rollbacks, and there's no such thing as, well, you know, let's force a version install of 1.5 instead. But with GPC, you can do that. And again, you can do all this through command line. So you can send patch.exe. I can't remember what the command line is. The switch, sorry, but it's something like this. So you would just do, I think it's V actually. So you would do 1.5.4. So say the latest version of your game out is 1.4, but you have like a little beta version that's 1.54. Then all you do is send a command line to the patcher, and it changes it. And it's like, well, yeah, okay, we have to download and patch to 1.54. You can also do rollback as well. So if that didn't work and your users want to roll back, you can then simply just roll back by specifying either a different version or just run the patch with the default configuration settings. So basically don't specify a version number, and it'll do the latest for them. What else have we got? Yeah, you can deploy it instantly. Block and file patching. So this is another interesting one. So the way AOPS works at the minute is it patches files. What it'll do is, say you've got 2,000 files, it'll check the first one in the patch list, then it'll check the second one in the patch list. If say the second one needs updating or patching, then what it'll do is it'll download the file, and then it'll patch it on the computer and check it again. Then it'll move on to the next file. Now with block patching, what will happen is GPC will create a temporary directory in the app data folder. It will perform the same operation, but rather than directly overwriting and patching each file on the user's computer, it will do it all to a temporary directory. And then once it's completed, then it will overwrite the actual game files. And the reason some people opt for this is because if a user's running the patcher and say something happens, like the computer switches off or they lose power or something, then they've not just got a half-patched game. You know, the block patching waits until all the files have been downloaded, and then it does all the patch in one go. So I hope that makes sense anyway. Pre-executables. Now, these two features, pre and post executables, again, these are two very powerful features, and a lot of our GPC users do take advantage of them. These are a necessity for some users. So pre-executables basically is a list of executables that runs before the patching starts. So you could use this to do stuff like license key checking, or maybe a login, you know, and all that kind of jazz. Or, you know, maybe you want to install the latest .NET runtimes, you know, or Visual Studio Library, anything like that. You could just think, well, we'll run some executables before. And again, you've got options with the pre-executables. You can either have them all execute at once, or you can have them execute in a certain order, so they go down in a particular order, and then it'll move on to the patching once they're complete. Post executables is pretty much the same, but it waits till after the patching is finished, and then it will run a series of executables. So, you know, you may have an executable that you know, installs the DirectX runtime once the patching's complete, just to make sure that they've got the latest DirectX runtime files installed. So you can have that execute once the patching is finished. And then finally, you come to the final write-outs. So final write-outs allows you to do a number of things. So you could, for example, choose to display a message to the user, like patching is now complete, or you can update a registry entry. You know, you can display a website. There's quite a few things that you can do. So yeah, I think as we were developing GPC, we wanted to cover as many features as possible, even some that had never been mentioned to us, or we've never come across before, like the pre and post executables. I think is a great feature. You know, it enables you to do stuff before it patches and after it patches. Thank you, James. Very kind of you to say that. You have been around a long time. This guy bought V1 way back, early 2019, I think it was. But yeah, so I mean, it's a very, very powerful software, and I don't think the website does it justice. But again, we can't put all the information completely in depth on the website, because it might confuse some people. So it's a double-edged sword. You know, you're trying to sell them the best product that you've got. You're trying to say, look, this is what it can do, but at the same time, you don't want to confuse the hell out of people, because that can throw them the opposite way. The documentation section is the most elaborate documentation section I've ever written in my entire life. It's got literally every single feature documented. So users will never get stuck with the software ever, because there's full descriptions for everything that's inside GPC, you know, including what's a final write out. You know, it tells you what it is, and then underneath final write outs, it gives you all the options like registry write out, and it tells you what you need to put in there to get it to work. So obviously, over the course of the next few weeks or the next couple of months, I'm going to try and pump out some more GPC tutorial videos, just to showcase what it can do. It can be used by game modders for Minecraft, 5M, whatever. And then we also have big game studios that use Game Patch Creator as well, to do, you know, to push out their game updates and their patches. And again, you know, with the multiple versions and multiple patch servers, and all sorts of jazz. It's a really good software. Obviously, I'm going to blow smoke up it, because it's obviously it's our software, but again, that's, you know, I'm here for the questions now. I've got about 5 minutes left here, so if anyone wants to ask me any questions, they can do. But again, you've got local version information, which you can retrieve from. Again, you'll be familiar with some of this from AOPS. Some of the concept is the same, so you can retrieve the local version from the registry root, from a file, or an initialization file. And again, remote version. Now, again, what can happen is if we have a folder, it's just a shame I've not got it installed for this stream. But say you export your patcher like this. I'll just bring that over here. So literally, you could have patch.exe. You could literally just distribute patch.exe on its own, and then you would literally just send command lines to it. So if you had say that you had 2 or 3 games in your arsenal, and you had a game launcher, one game launcher for 3 games, you could update all those 3 games just by using one patch.exe, because inside your buttons, inside your launcher, you just send the relevant command line for what you want it to do, which is great, because literally you could just distribute patch.exe on its own. Even if you didn't have a launcher, you could do that on its own, create a shortcut or something that just launches it and fires off what it needs to do. Let me just check on my computer. I'll see if I've got a debug log file to show you, because the debug log file, and this is where you get AOPS on steroids from as well, is the log file is completely, like, there's so much information. I'm going to use one from someone else here that someone sent me, one of our users. Let's not use that one. Let's see if I can find a better one. Right, so I'll just quickly pull this over here. So if you look at this debug log file, it's again similar to AOPS, but again you've got a lot more to work with here. So we've got, like, this is the command line that was sent. It tells you everything about the user's computer, so it tells you what time zone they're running on, the resolution, screen depth, all this kind of information. Even tells you what graphics cards they're running on and what they've got installed. It'll tell you everything from A to Z. Everything that you need to know is right there. And when it comes to debugging as well, we have the full documentation for debugging here. And it's so, honestly, I spent weeks developing this documentation system, writing it all, taking the screenshots, trying to explain things, and we've not had any users with any issues yet when it comes to debugging. It's pretty self-explanatory. I've written the debug log files. They come out and they have so much information in them. It's very easy for users to debug if there is any issues, and lo and behold, up to now we've not even had any issues with GPC, which is all gravy. So yeah, that's pretty much. I mean, I could sit here for the next 2 hours and keep going over different things, because it's so complex, it's so big, but it's so easy to use as well. And again, if you're familiar with AOPS and GLC v2, then the transition to Game Patch Creator will be too easy. And if you're not familiar with Game Launch Creator v2 and AOPS, it doesn't matter, because again, learning GPC is far too easy. And obviously we have the Discord server as well with the relevant channels for support and helping users out. We also have already a full-blown video tutorial on how to set up your first patcher and then how to patch your game after that as well. So there's so much to explore. I am going to take some time out over the next few weeks, couple of months, try and do some more video tutorials as well for GPC. Maybe do some video tutorials on the multi-version setup, and multi-server and multi-version. There's so many different concoctions that you can do, but it's fully flexible. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So if there's no other questions to be had, we can quickly wrap up this live stream and call it a bit of a success. Like I said, I wish I had a bit more time. But the Euros are on. It's the Euro final tonight with Italy and England. So yeah, I'm definitely not going to be working tomorrow. I can tell you that for free. So I'm just going to go and get ready to go and watch that now. And if you have any other questions, please drop a comment on this video. Go over to our Discord server, have a chat with the users that are there, or any staff that's online. And yeah, that's pretty much it. There's no more questions in the live chat, so I bid you all a good evening, and football's coming home. I'll see you soon.